This is the first university in Nigeria. Russian language studies was introduced here in 1965 during the era of the Soviet Union, a powerful group of communist republics including Russia. Then, Russia sponsored many Nigerian students to take the course, including Oluwakayode Omotade, who's now a senior instructor for the language here.
At that point in time, the Soviet Union funded 100% the year abroad program, but due to centrifugal forces and internal dynamics that led to the fall of the Soviet Union, that system of funding was discontinued. In the aftermath of that, our students have had to fund themselves.
Здравствуйте. Сегодня
Precious Akonde was one of them. She was offered a place here in 2017, and 4 years later, she graduated at the top of her class. Now, she's trying to grow a community of local speakers in Nigeria. Though she's worried, people's perception about the language is being blurred by Russia's war in Ukraine.
I was able to introduce it to my family, my mom especially, who always forces me to speak it to her. She doesn't mind saying spasiba, привет, как дела, and paka, that's bye. So, and it just brought joy, it brought a passion, and I became strong, just like the Russians. It's true they say they might be representing war, but they represented dignity, strength. They bring out something in you that you don't know was there.
For years, Russia has been making inroads across Africa, including Nigeria. Russia's partnerships with Africa include education, trade, and investments in military hardware. But Russia's expansion on the continent is raising concerns. The African Center for Strategic Studies says Russia has become especially eager to grow its influence in Africa after it started the war in Ukraine. Joseph Siegel, the author of the report Tracking Russian Interference to Derail Democracy in Africa, says 31 African countries have seen their democracy's course decline over the past 5 years due to the influence of authoritarian actors.
We looked at this across 5 different categories: election interference, the deployment of Wagner forces, undermining the UN, especially on peacekeeping operations, disinformation, and through support of coups and other extra-constitutional actions. On Freedom House's global freedom scale of 0 to 100, the countries where Russia has been actively engaged, they score a 19. On Africa, on average, is a 51. And so it has, it's having very dramatic impacts on undermining democratic processes on the continent.
The Russian embassy in Abuja did not immediately respond to VOA's request for comment. Last October, Russian education centers opened in Ivory Coast, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Nigeria to provide students with the opportunity to study Russian and learn more about the country's culture. Political analyst Rotimi Olawale spoke about the situation.
I think that people look at the relationship with Russia and Africa with a narrow lens of just involvement in security and governance. I think that the relationship is far more complex than that. We could see with the impact of the Russian-Ukraine war, it affected the import of grains, especially wheat, into Africa, thereby causing a lot of food insecurity on the continent. So when people single out Russia for such externalities, it makes me chuckle.
Meanwhile, Akonde's focus is to teach more locals how to speak the Russian language and possibly set the record straight. Timothy Obiezu, VOA News, Abuja, Nigeria.